told you to think about possibilities if humans could fly, right? If you could spread your wings and soar in the sky. Well, I think that if humans could fly, they would think of it as exercise and not do it. I'm a physical therapist and a movement scientist, and today, as we talk of resurrections, I invite you to explore with me the myriad and profound impact movement has in healing minds and bodies and in preventing diseases. I work with patients who have lost their capability to move or move incorrectly. And what would they give to regain their ability to move? I think you are a smart audience and you don't need to be there to understand the significance of movement in our lives. So let's talk about my journey. I did my doctoral work at the University of Minnesota, and Minnesota is one of the northern states in the US where there are 10,000 lakes and it's a natural habitat for mountain bears. And one of the researchers there really got interested in bears because bears can lie motionless during their winter hibernation for 5 to 6 months. But despite this lack of mobility, they wake up nimble. They don't lose any muscle mass or get stiff. When the spring season comes, they're ready to walk and roam the forest. As compared to that, if a human being were to take prolonged bed rest, let's say after an injury or surgery or during ICU stay, the patient would become emaciated, would lose muscle mass, would become stiff, and would develop multiple complications because of this. Studies have shown that there is a decline in the muscle strength rate of around 12% a week. And in very severe cases, it may be up to 40% in the first week of immobility. How wonderful it would be if we could wake up like those bears after prolonged hospitalizations, right? Well, let me also talk of scenarios when we don't lose our capability to move completely, but when we choose not to move. I have 2 kids, 8 and 3. And at this age, it's natural for them to run and hop across rooms instead of walking. They think of my home furniture as a hurdle race, and instead of moving around it, they jump over there. But if and when any screen turns on, their natural instinct disappears and they are transfixed and riveted to their screens. At such scenarios where we don't lose our capability to move, but we choose to do it, happens to all of us. We sit for prolonged periods of time, let's say while driving, or studying, or working, or while binge screen watching, right? Data in the West suggests that there are approximately 70 chairs per individual. And I think that's a lot. No wonder we sit around so much. Researchers have found out that those who sit for more than 8 hours in a day without much physical activity have a risk of dying similar to that due to obesity or smoking. Which means that even if you are someone who is making healthy eating choices and you don't smoke, still you have increased your chances of dying early just by sitting and not moving. Sitting also has its ill effects for making us lose our muscle power, for developing bad posture, and then that ultimately leads to development of low back pain. The data on the incidence of back pain is astounding. In this current era, almost everybody sitting here will develop back pain once in their life. And many of us will develop back pain which will be recurrent or so chronic that it will affect our participation in our everyday life or in recreational activities. I know it keeps physical therapists like me in business, but frankly, I'm sure you have heard of the adage that sitting is the new smoking and it's best to be avoided, especially for long hours. I think it's not surprising to understand why sedentary lifestyle is so bad for us. I know we are very proud of our brain power when we compare ourselves to other species. I think we should be also proud that we are one of the most efficient long-distance runners among all species, a quality that developed over thousands and millions of years and helped us survive. And any situation in which we can't move or choose not to move is bad for us. It leads to development of various health problems, not only losing your muscle strength, but osteoporosis, poor digestion, clotting leg veins, to serious problems like metabolic syndromes or diabetes or cardiac diseases, to reduced lifespan, to certain kinds of cancer, and even surprisingly, poor mental health. So I believe you all agree with me that movement is fundamental for our existence, and any event that prohibits us from doing so is going to be problematic. From the time we are born, our bodies are in a state of constant motion trying to adapt to the world around us. And now I'm going to share results with you where we found out in patients who have low back pain and because of which the scenarios when they do not move, the muscles are not only thinning out, the muscles are starting to get replaced by fat. They have fatty infiltration in muscles. On the screen over here, you see two images. The one on the left is from a patient. This is your MRI, a transverse section of the spine. This is your vertebral body right here. And all the white that you see around that spine is supposed to be muscle, but you see it white in color, which means that the muscle is getting replaced by fat. On the right hand side over here is an MRI scan of a relatively healthy individual. And you can see that all this black around the spine is protecting it. The core muscles are stabilizing it and protecting the spine. Now let's talk about this transformative or almost resurrective power of movement that we have. Thankfully, all the detrimental effects of lack of mobility are reversible. Exercise is surprisingly protective even in small doses. You see, our muscles are designed to react to overload. That means that whenever you participate in any physical activity like resistance training, your musculoskeletal system is going to adapt to it. So, though the fact that use it or lose it is true for muscles, equally true is the fact that the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And I know it takes longer to regain muscles than the time it required to lose it, but it's possible, even for the elderly. So there is actually no right or wrong time to start exercising. You'll be surprised to know that the calorie requirement to maintain muscles is higher than the calorie requirement to maintain fat. That means that a more muscular person burns up more calories even at rest. So when you think you're not working, your muscles are still working. And your body becomes more efficient in metabolizing fats and sugars if you participate in regular physical activity. It helps you keep that unwanted weight off and prevent all the diseases that are associated with an overweight or an inactive sedentary lifestyle. Perhaps the most fascinating for me is the effect of movement on the nervous system. A big part of my work has been at a center for spinal injuries in India. I work with patients who have lost their capability to move completely or partially due to spinal cord injury. Now you see, brain and spinal cord cells do not have the regenerative capabilities that your bones and muscles have. If you break a bone, your bone unites and it heals. If you strain a muscle, that will also heal. But if you have stroke or if you have spinal cord injury, your brain and spinal cord cells do not have that regenerative capabilities to heal again. So does it mean that once this function or this capability is lost, these patients will never regain it? Well, let me introduce you to a very fascinating area of cortical adaptability or neuroplasticity. Think of your brain as a network of roads. And whenever you learn a new skill, we play new roles or new pathways and new connections. Exercise allows development of these new pathways and new synapses in patients who have stroke or spinal cord injury, so that the adjacent area takes over the function of the one which is compromised. Exercise also allows to decrease the excitability of certain pathways which were present but dormant, so that information can be passed more easily. In fact, exercise remains the only viable treatment for managing these neural conditions. Talking about cortical excitability, we use a different technique in my lab to study the electrical activity in muscles by a technology called as electromyography or EMG. And we find out that whenever we check the effect of exercise on muscle activation, before we can find any muscle hypertrophy, we find increased activation, which can only happen because exercise has modified the way we control our movement. This is called motor control, and physical therapists use this strategy to train patients to use their muscles correctly while moving by tweaking the neural circuitry that is making the movement. And again, exercise here remains the only viable way of treating movement impairment-based dysfunctions. These are a few but very profound examples of how movement affects your mind. But let me impress you further. Exercise makes you release certain endorphins, which are your natural feel-good hormones, which can help you fight your stress, your anxiety, your depression. It can also improve your cognitive capabilities. That means that you can focus better in a class, or you can remember stuff better. It boosts your creativity and helps you have an overall better feeling of well-being in life. I believe that it's not always easy for us to make choices against pleasures that we get from instant gratification, right? Like from junk food or procrastination and laziness. And exercise is all about making that effort. And who wants to do it, frankly, right? And technology is not making it easier for us. The emerging technology is making you move lesser and lesser. Things are happening at the push of a button. Or why even push a button? Things are happening by just speaking out loudly. But frankly, I believe that movement, even leisurely movement, has a profound impact on your body. And that it's a natural state for you to be in. I believe it to be a catalyst of change. And it's not a difficult choice if you understand the benefits over the hazards of not moving. So today I urge you to embrace movement naturally in your lives, because you know that every step that you take, every stretch that you make is a step towards a healthier and a happier life. Thank you.